So since 2019, we've been very busy implementing our two capstone goals, which were to implement an assessment process to make informed decisions about how youth were going to be served and to change the rules of probation. So in order to do those two things, we had legislative changes that happened to institute the assessment process by June of 2021 to be enacted January 1 of 2022. And the rules of probation we changed also happened July 1 of 2022.
It's super important to know that we did listening sessions prior to making the changes where we invited all stakeholders to come on to a Zoom to talk about the changes that were coming and hear from them the things that they were concerned about. And we did kind of like defense specific ones, we did state specific ones, police, we invited different police departments. And I think that was really helpful to make the stakeholders feel like they actually had some, even if we didn't do what they wanted or totally agree with the things that they were concerned about. I do think it made it seem like at the very least that they felt like they had a voice and their concern was voiced, and then we went on our merry way. And then the follow-ups, like Judge Ashley said, were key to show like it actually is working. The sky did not fall. We're actually seeing great results.
So in our state, the assessment process means that law enforcement makes a referral to juvenile probation for a voluntary needs assessment to be completed utilizing a CANS tool prior to a petition being filed in the court. The CANS is a child and adolescent needs and strengths tool, which identifies youth strengths and needs, and we're using those strengths to reduce the needs that are being derived through the process. It's driving recommendations for youth to be served in the community through diversion programming, mental health access, or at times, the court intervention is necessary. The assessment process created consistency for youth being served throughout our state. Prior to that, law enforcement across the state had individual discretion as to how diversion would or would not be accessed and validating that on the petition that they filed. This creates consistency amongst all youth, regardless of where they're served, to be able to participate in this voluntary assessment.
When the law changed, there needed to be extensive teaching all stakeholders about what it was going to mean because it was significant change. Police couldn't file petitions any longer just out of the gate. So, and in New Hampshire, we don't have centralized prosecution for delinquent cases. So there were a lot of trainings that we need to occur. It was also a rolling implementation date over the course of a year. So we had 3 blocks that we were training folks on. So we did a roadshow essentially, and we went out and had trainings at lunch hours or wherever we could do that at the different regions of the state, and invited anyone and everyone who was interested to attend those trainings. We did launch this during the pandemic. We were able to go to Georgetown pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic hit. It wasn't always easy to have the in-person connections, but we did have in-person trainings for this process. And that, of course, includes all police, public defenders, contract attorneys, probation officers, court staff, judges, and then other stakeholders like treatment providers or residential placement school districts. All of those folks were invited to attend.
We have a lot of data associated with it that we've captured over the past 3 years. And we have roughly 25% of the youth that we assess annually being referred for court intervention. 20% are being referred to behavioral health, and 55% of them are being served through formal or informal diversion programs throughout our state. Overall, we have a 40% reduction in the number of youth being served through court oversight since our work has launched. For youth that do end up court involved, we also petitioned the New Hampshire Supreme Court for an administrative rules change for our rules of probation. We originally had 20 static rules that every kid followed regardless of what their offenses were. We changed that to 5 rules, all consistent, and then the number 55 rule is to follow the plan, which is again built upon the plans that was conducted from that pre-court intervention assessment. So we're making informed decisions for youth based on their strengths and needs, rather than finding out about what those strengths and needs are after court intervention has occurred. As a team, 5 of our 7 original members continue to meet regularly. There was some turnover for the other 2 folks, but our core 5 have met regularly throughout the 6 years. We've hosted numerous ongoing learning, training sessions, feedback we've asked for, we've solicited regarding these changes, and we all continue to make a commitment to serve the youth in New Hampshire in a more positive way than we did prior to our participation. And our diversion numbers and participation and completion in that have truly changed how youth are served in our state.